Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark and welcome to my studio. So what have I got for you lovely lot today? Well, it's part one in a two-part series taken from our recent painting retreat at Blackadon Farm on Dartmoor in the beautiful county of Devon. And we're going to be looking at painting textures with watercolour, both on rocks and water, and painting this lovely little scene. So come and join me and we'll paint this step by step together. Oh, and just before we start, I've got a very short video, it's only 2 minutes long, of our painting retreat, so please enjoy that. So this is the second year that we've held a retreat at the award-winning Blackadon Farm in the heart of the beautiful county of Devon. Now, such a great location to paint and relax, including a fully equipped studio. Pay attention, Linda. And plenty of opportunity to get out in the open and paint plein air. Now this little stream is less than 5 minutes walk from the farm, with so many interesting things to paint. And for those more adventurous, it's only a few minutes further onto the open moors and a vast wilderness. In fact, we came across 2 students lost from last year's retreat. And of course, there's always plenty of things to paint around the farm too. And please do check out at the end some wonderful paintings by this group of artists. And no trip is complete without a walk down to the local for a pint. We mustn't forget the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, where a huge thanks must go to Sandy and Debbie from Dartmoor Larder, who fed us so well throughout the week. Your Majesty. So this retreat is also great for non-painting partners, as there's always plenty to do. So we've already booked the farm for next year, but this time we're going in the spring. See below for full details. But hurry, places do go very fast. So for today's tutorial, while I was walking around the glorious countryside, I really got caught up in all the amazing textures everywhere, in the walls, on the stones, in the stream, the way the light falls on the rocks and the sparkle in the water. So I thought I'd use this photo for a lesson in creating textures. Today's materials, my paper, is some Bockingford Rough. It's £200, nice and thick, so won't need stretching. It's not cotton, but it's a great paper. But of course, any decent watercolour paper will do. And my colours today are cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, sap green, burnt sienna, burnt umber, Payne's grey. I'm using a little touch of white gouache, and for my brushes from my range, a large mop, number 12 and number 6 round. And here's the pencil sketch. There's no drawing template available today. It's nice and simple. Off we go, and I'm starting by using my large mop and completely wetting the whole sheet of paper with clean water. So straight away I'm dropping in a wash of cobalt blue. Now I'll list all the colours I'm using below, but the important thing to remember that this first layer, these first stages, all these colours must go in wet to create a nice base wash. Now I'm using my number 12 brush for this, holding it right at the end so I get nice big broad strokes and just getting down the colour as quickly as possible. And I'm really not trying to paint neatly inside all the pencil lines, and I'm just letting all these colours mix and blend on the paper rather than on my palette. Now I've got my reference photo up there in the top left, but remember it's just there purely as a guide. I'm really not trying to match it exactly. You've got to make it your own. and there's just a little hint of pinkiness up here in this rock. Now I'm letting that first layer totally dry. Then I'm thinking, how do I create those speckly highlights on the rocks? So, decision made. I'm taking some candle wax. In fact, this is a piece of tea light, and I'm lightly rubbing over the surface of the paper. Now the idea is I'm putting a resist on the higher ridges of the textured paper. Now don't press down too hard. Remember, we're only looking to get the wax on the top bumps of the paper. Next, I'm taking some masking fluid and a really grotty old brush. Trust me, I've ruined many a decent brush with this stuff. You can of course dip it in some washing up liquid first to protect it. And what I'm doing here is just masking out the areas where there's that movement in the water, where you see those highlights. And as you can see, I'm twisting my brush as I apply the masking fluid just to get a variety of brush strokes. Right, so now it's time to paint the rocks, and as you can see, I'm holding my brush fairly near the end and I'm keeping it pretty flat to the paper. That'll allow me to get that extra texture. You can also see where the wax resist is leaving those gaps. And I'm just flicking my brush and lightly touching the top of the paper. This will give me that nice texture. And of course, splatting in some colour will always give you that random feel. Now, salt can also be a wonderful way of getting that texture in, so I'm just taking a few granules between my finger and thumb and lightly sprinkling into the damp and wet areas. You really don't want big clumps of salt or it'll take forever to dry. And if you feel things are just drying out a little too quickly, just give it a light spray with clean water. Now, dropping in a few blobs of clean water will force some uneven drying time, which will give you some nice textural backgrounds or cauliflowers as they're known. Now I've painted those other 3 rocks in exactly the same way, using the dry brush technique, dropping in the salt, using some splats, and of course letting the wax resist do its thing. This big rock again, same techniques, and don't be afraid to get some really nice darks in here, as you can see from the reference picture. And again, you can see some of the unpainted areas where the wax is resisting the paint. Table salt again, just lightly sprinkled in. And here I'm taking my number 6 brush and just lightly dabbing in some clean water to get some much softer motley effects. And I've let that big rock dry before tackling this rock above, and you can see that lovely texture created by the salt in that rock below. Right, so now to try and create the illusion of these pebbles and stones which are under the water. Starting by completely wetting this area with clean water. Now the key to making these stones look submerged is to give them a soft edge, to give them the impression that the water is slightly blurring the edges. So all these colours need to go in wet in wet. And you can see here where the masking fluid is resisting the paint. I'm just beginning here to paint in the dark outline of these stones. A bit of splatting into the wet for some soft texture. And again, if you think things are drying out too quickly, just give it a light spray. Right, super dark here to get the contrast in the rocks and the definition in the movement of the water. And just adding more dark in here to give the shape of those stones. So now we're in the damp stage, so I'm just tapping in a few splats to get some soft texture here. Now over here we've got the opposite thing going on, we've got darker ripples on the lighter background. Clean water spray here just to soften some of these edges. Here I'm just using my smaller number 6 brush to add in a few details. Now we need to let this totally dry, so it's a perfect time for a short break. And how about a glass of Devon Rock Craft Lager? Next I'm taking my rubber eraser and peeling off all the masking fluid. Next I'm re-wetting all this water area and then dropping in a very light wash of cobalt blue. Next I'm using some Jackman's titanium white gouache, but you could use acrylic, and I'm just watering it down to paint in these white highlights. Now I'm adding some cobalt blue watercolour directly into the gouache to get this nice light blue colour. Now it's time for a bit of mixed media, and I'm getting my pastels out. Where's my white gone? Oh, hang on, it's over here. Now it's that white quartzy speckly effect that I'm trying to get back into the rocks. So I'm taking my pastel and laying it flat to the paper and just slowly dragging it across. And you can see it's picking up the texture of the paper and giving me that nice textured feel. But I'm also blending in with my finger some of those edges. Now this is a soft pastel which has that more chalky feel, but if you only have oil pastels, they'll work fine. Next I'm taking a yellowy green colour here and I'm putting in that sort of moss effect. I don't know if anyone spotted him, but there's a tiny little spider here just making his way down on a single thread. I'll leave him alone, perhaps he'll just find his way out. And again smudging some of the edges to blend it in. taking a yellowy pastel pencil. Look at the state of my fingers. Anyway, I'm putting in these little bits of vegetation. There we go, all done in about 2.5 hours. So it's goodbye from me and from Boris the Spider here, who's decided to make a return. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and you'll give it a go. So coming up now, as promised, some lovely work by the students from the week. But as I always say, make it your own. It's a real opportunity to experiment with the paint, use some wax, use some salt, splash around with the colours, and it doesn't have to look anything like mine. And in the meantime, please don't forget to like. Subscribe if you haven't already, it is free. Hang on, computer graphics. Leave a comment, I do read every single one, can't always reply to them all. And of course, I look forward to seeing you all again next week for another Watercolour Wednesday. Have a great week, everyone. Cheers. So this was a lovely gift given to us by the cottages at Blackadon Farm Watercolour Society, put together by all the students. Okay, this is from Robin, a beautiful sketch of Moorhaven, the little village just down the road. This was from Kat. Lovely soft watercolour. Love this one. It's from Bob, one of the donkeys from the farm. This is a Max classic. He always includes the little family in all of his paintings. Splat, lovely from Sarah, thank you. A fun little creature from Christine. And this was from Josa. She really was the rock queen. A lovely rendition of the cottage next door from Carmen. You gotta love that little goat from Marissa. And a nice stone wall. The Dartmoor background. That's from Linda J. Beautiful sunset with a lone cow from the Queen of Hearts, Linda R. And thank you, I like it. A lovely little painting from Jackie. A beautiful leaf illustration from Di. And a lovely hanging basket, thank you, from Michelle and Mike. What a lovely bright colourful painting from Mary. Another one from Robin, exploding beer. Cheers. And a lovely message and colourful rainbow from Francis and Graham. And finally, another one of Robin's fabulous sketches. A huge thanks to everyone. Margot and I will definitely treasure this little book.
Thanks everyone, it was a pleasure.